So, and first of all, blockchain is just a technology. So it's not, there's a lot of misconception, like whether it's Bitcoin equal blockchain or cryptocurrency equal blockchain, but it's not. So blockchain is a technology which allows to implement secure and reliable digital infrastructure for establishing common policies built with multiple organizations or individuals. So it means that it allows to create a digital infrastructure for decentralized protocols. It's quite complex definition, but basically it means that we can create a digital infrastructure for any decentralized system. And this decentralized system could be a different system in different industries. And for example, it could be like a payment system, it could be some supply chain system, and blockchain provides us a tool, provides a technology to create such a platform, create a digital platform for this decentralized system. And from technological point of view, it's a distributed ledger with a history of all transactions within a system. And this technology also allows to achieve data consistency through consensus algorithm. So, and as I already said, there's multiple possible blockchain applications. So not only cryptocurrencies and digital assets. So I just expressed here like some of them, but in general, it's like any other technology, like internet or artificial intelligence. It can be applied in many different industries, but obviously digital assets is one of most popular right now application of blockchain technologies, but it's not the only one. And I also need to introduce you into the concept of smart contract. So because it's really often goes together with blockchain. So smart contracts is just like a regular contract, but implemented within a programming language. So, but the advantage of it is that it allows to automatically execute that contract when trigger comes, and it's executed on all the networks the same way simultaneously. So, and to highlight the advantage of this feature, I would give you an example. So let's imagine there is a government where like millions citizens, and within their government there is a policy. So this policy says so once medium wealth of all citizens is twice lower, becomes more than twice lower than average wealth of the citizen, we issue 10% of current supply of national currency and distribute it equally to each citizen, which allows to make a more even distribution of wealth. So this is extremely complex contract in order to execute it, because you can imagine just to come up with this information that medium wealth become twice lower than average wealth within a population, within a country population. It needs to gather a lot of data. It needs to go through multiple intermediaries. It needs to be supervised and so on. And then it's this 10% of current supply needs to be issued. It needs to be distributed across all the participants of the network, across all the citizens of this government. But such a complex logic can be implemented with smart contract with just few numbers of lines of code, and will be executed on every blockchain node and every within this decentralized system. So this gives you an idea how powerful this concept is, and how much more complex policies we can introduce within some system. So, but now, how in general blockchain can help with value capturing? And blockchain have number of features, enough number of characteristics, and these three are very relevant to value capturing. So blockchain is very open system, so you can make it auditable and transparent for everyone, for every participant, without sacrificing security of the system. And it also allows to have a traceability of everything happening within a system. So, and when we come to science, this is also kind of a small, not small, but big global ecosystem with multiple stakeholders, with different workflows. And this ecosystem also can have some decentralized policies, some decentralized workflows. And in these decentralized workflows, this can be part of the system. It could be part of modular decentralized system built with the blockchain technology. It can consist review workflows, research proposals, publication in journal, grant distribution, and so on. So, and when we come to like original question of this webinar, how actually scientists can capture value of their research for using blockchain, and I will highlight these three main possibilities and these three main advantage which can be used for value capturing of a research with the blockchain. So the first one is IP protection using blockchain timestamping. So obviously, scientists produces intellectual property produced knowledge, and if it's not protected, it can be stolen and it cannot be captured enough. Another one is introducing fair metrics via decentralized assessment. So this is another thing which is important for value capturing for scientists, that within a system, value created by each individual, by each research group, needs to be recognized, and in order to be recognized, it needs to be evaluated. And sometimes assessment process is favoring not the most valuable research, but the most hypey, the most novel one. And another one is research funding through tokenization. So this is also quite an interesting concept, which allows to tokenize scientific research. So I will go through these three right now. Yeah, so as we already said, IP protection is very important for those who create scientific research, who conduct scientific research, who produce some intellectual property after it, and not in currently the system of protection of intellectual property is very old, is very rigid, and not really convenient for scientists. So patents is nightmare, and it's very expensive, and it's not really efficient. And there is a lot of different organizations who abuse the system, who we call patent trolls. And using blockchain, we can provide inexpensive way to protect IP via timestamping proof of authorship into immutable ledger. So as an example, there is any invention can when it sometimes needs to be shared, it sometimes needs to be shared with funder, with investor, with reviewers, and this is a possibility for someone to steal these ideas. So that means that these ideas, this innovation needs to be protected. And blockchain offers very interesting concept, and it comes because through its nature, through the nature of blockchain, and it offers a concept of protection IP through timestamping. So blockchain, as we already discussed, it's a mutable ledger, and it means that once we timestamp some proof into this ledger, we can always technologically prove that it was timestamped there, so that we had this information before. So, and basically it means that using blockchain, we can create a fingerprint of some IP asset, and without disclosing this IP asset, we can submit a proof or submit this fingerprint to a blockchain, and blockchain will ensure that this fingerprint is included into distributed ledger, into mutable distributed ledger, and we will always know what time of this transaction was, and we know that there is a guarantee that it cannot be unwinded, that it's going to be stored in distributed ledger. So we kind of receiving this digital certificate that this IP is protected, and this IP can be further. We can further prove that we had that IP at that time. Another interesting concept is fair metrics were decentralized assessment. So as we discussed already, blockchain allows to transfer some contracts to decentralized ecosystem, to decentralized infrastructure using blockchain technology. And currently we have, in science, we have multiple metrics which sometimes considered, sometimes are not considered within a decision-making process. But these metrics mostly quantitative and not always represent the quality of a research. So, and basically what blockchain offers here is that the scientific community can come up with an agreement with a smart contract on how to formalize results of open research into some metric or set of metrics, which will be representing quality of research and which can be further used by funders, journals, and other scientists. So within our company, we have already come up with multiple of such approaches, which actually gives in a measure, a metric specific for each discipline, and which can be used further for grant distribution decisions, for journal publication decisions, and so on. But basically, blockchain provides us infrastructure to experiment with such metrics and to have a transparent, open agreement between participants about how scientific community wants to be assessed, what is the process, what is the evaluation process, and what will be the final metric to represent for the rest, for those who don't have enough domain expertise to assess the quality of scientific research themselves, but they need to know this quality, such as grant givers, investors, and so on. So, and within decentralized assessment, we can come up also with a smart contract, which will kind of represent quantitative measure of a quality of research, and this quantitative measure can be used by an external participant, and this measure also can be used by the smart contract itself, and this smart contract then can govern how grants are distributed. So basically, scientific community, when it comes up with such a concept and introduces it, so now we can have a mechanism to provide those who need evaluation process within their decision-making process. We can provide we can provide some infrastructure for automation of their decision-making. And with this, with this infrastructure, with blockchain infrastructure, it also means that within the network we can also accumulate researchers and reviewers profiles and accumulate track record of this of the participants, and not necessarily sharing the information, but sharing just the metadata. And this is something which can connect different organizations also under the common policy, how to consider these metrics, how to consider this track record within their decision-making process. So in the final point I wanted to cover is research funding through tokenization. So this is one of most simple, I will say, things within a blockchain for science, but it also has some difficulties in terms of regulation. But nevertheless, it's a very interesting concept which can attract more funding into research, especially if we also would implement some decentralized evaluation process, which will help investors to decide where to invest their funds. And in general, research funding through tokenization means that we can tokenize each research and issue a securities token. So it's kind of ownership of research. It's kind of issuing shares of research without creating a legal entity. It's a legal entity exists just within blockchain network. And once these tokens, like these digital securities, tokens which represent ownership of research, are issued on the blockchain network, scientists, research group can use these tokens to fundraise, to attract funding not only from grants, but also from for-profit investors. But it means that these for-profit investors will have a corresponding share of future products and IP created based on results from this research. And this funding, like profit from this IP will be redistributed across token holders, and these token holders originally, like if we take a look on the diagram, there's 100% owned by those who initiated research, but then some funding can be attracted. Some funding can be attracted for some part of these research tokens. And but obviously this works not for every research. Not every research produce IP which can be monetized soon. But every good research creates some knowledge which can be further converted into IP through another applied research. So, and because of this, we can also try to get some additional policy how to connect actually basic research to IP produced, eventually produced, because we also want somehow to reward these basic research which contributed to knowledge creation, which contributed to also those applied research which will be created based on this basic research. And as an example of such policy, it could be that every research has to share 10% of its reward from some sources. It's not necessarily should be all the sources, but some sources, or 5% is just an example, with a research projects it referencing. And in this case, it means that even basic research through references. And using blockchain technology, we can make this policy to be executed automatically. So this is also one of powerful features. So, and I'm getting back to this whole picture of how scientists can benefit from blockchain in terms of capturing value. And on this diagram, you can see like it's a very rough representation of how we can connect these two groups, like scientific community who produces IP, who creates research projects, who assess also research projects, and industry investors and scientific funds who needs to either create some some innovation, either to produce some scientific knowledge, and how we can match them under the common digital infrastructure implemented on the blockchain technology and not owned by any central entity. So thank you. I think that's it. And I would really love to hear your questions. Marco told me that you can send it via chat. So I'll be happy to answer it. Marco?
Alex?
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, so it looks like there are no questions on the chat. I've asked people to send their questions along.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody has questions, please send them along. So, okay, so I think that the presentation was very nice. I also wanted to say that our association is going to start a collaboration with you and try to see how we can leverage your platform for open science.
Yeah.
So would you like to spend some words about that?
Yeah, sure. So I haven't covered much.
You should have your screen sharing, and so
should I stop? Okay.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, so yeah, so we as Marcus said, like we are now starting kind of new project, a collaboration between Marie Curie Alumni Association and DEIP. And what I covered right now during the presentation, it also relates to what we're doing here in DEIP. So we have already done most of these technologies I was covering during the presentation. And with Marie Curie Alumni Association, we want to create such a platform which will allow to keep a track record of scientists within a decentralized system, which will not be owned by anyone, but will be able to provide a real-time proof of a track record for different organizations like science funders, review committees, and so on. And it's just the beginning. I'm not sure we should uncover like all the plans right now, but I think you should stay tuned, like subscribe to Marie Curie channels and DEIP channels. So we will, I think, very soon publish some announcement and give more details about what exactly we're planning to do.
Okay, thanks a lot, Alex. So there's a question. Asking about how it is, if you could explain a bit more about how to create smart contracts.
Yeah, so smart contract is just a piece of code. Actually, it's not how to say, it's not something like which standardized across blockchain platforms. And usually this piece of code needs to be written in some language, so like Rust, and in this contract, for example, the smart contract is transferring money. So basically, this is a code which says, once I received transaction from, for example, Marco, signed by his private key, which says send to Alex 10,000 tokens, it means that I need to extract these 10,000 tokens from balance of Marco and send it to Alex, and adjust balance of Alex plus 10,000 tokens. So this is like the simplest smart contract. And within, for example, DEIP platform, it can be created with C++ code. And within, for example, some other blockchain platforms, it could be a different language. And you can always, in any blockchain platform can consist like a set of smart contracts. So, but basically it's just a kind of command transaction and command handler, which handles this command and validates the main rules and performs some changes in the blockchain state. Hope I answered the question.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. There is another question. If there is any publication about this topic, or maybe a white paper that you have,
yeah.
And
yes,
yes, where can it be found? Because it's from a person who has a project in blockchain technology, so maybe it will be interesting for this person.
Yeah. So we have some ideas I've been describing about blockchain for science. I also described in more details and much more details in our white paper. And for example, ideas about this evaluation model, how to introduce these metrics for assessment, they described in our white paper and can be found on our website. And in general, if you want to start like going deeper about just into blockchain technology, I would suggest to start from just the most simple white paper. It's a Bitcoin white paper. It's very simple to understand the technology. So our white paper is much more complex, but it's much more related to science, to scientific workflows. So I would also suggest everyone to read it.
Okay, thank you. So I also have a question. Before going into the question, so your web page is deip.io, right?
DEIP.world.
Word. I'm sorry. Okay, I will write it so that people can then visit it. Oh, okay. And yeah, the question is, so I actually am not very familiar with Bitcoins, blockchain, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And always my impression is that there is a bit of a hurdle to make an account, a blockchain identity, and things like that. How do you cope with this? Do you deal with it?
So this is one of issues of blockchain. So there is not much adoption of blockchain, especially in retail. So not everyone have a private key to control their like digital wallet, and some protocols are hard to use because there's like complexity in user interface. But for example, how we tackle this problem, we have user interface, and you just enter your private key as a password. So you have login and password, and login is your username, and this password is actually private key and stored only locally and used to sign every transaction which goes to the blockchain. So, and it feels like a regular website. And so this is how can mitigate these difficulties of user experience of for regular users, but there are also applications of blockchain between business entities, and this makes it much simpler. So it makes, like, for example, 10 corporates to join into one network, and they use this network not like from user side, like not from user interface, but there is some API which sends this transaction to the blockchain. So it means that their backend of some of their system is connected to the blockchain, but regular users don't even know about it. And this is, I think, how eventually it's going to be for everyone. So we will be using it, and we will not know that we're using blockchain.
I see. Okay, that's very nice. So like of effortless usage of blockchain, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Okay, I just wanted to say that Alex will be in a panel discussion in our meeting in Berlin on 11th and 12th of July, the Researchers Meet Innovators event. It's organized in 2 days. And the first day we will have panel discussions and also some talks from speakers. The second day we will have Alex, I would like to thank you a lot for your introduction on blockchain and on also on answering the questions. And I will see you soon. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Marco. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure, and thank you for inviting.
Likewise. Bye, Alex.
Bye.